What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. It's been a stressful week for the family. It's been a lot of stuff going on. Have not posted in a few days. I'm sure some people are wondering. If you missed my community tab, I updated that Dad was back in the emergency room. That was the thing that started out this week. He's been off and on pain. Been trying to go over as much as I can to the house to check in on him, see if there's anything that we can do to help him ease the pain, help him out with his day-to-day stuff. And I believe it was on, like I said, my days are all mixed around. It's been a week. So I think it was back on early Sunday morning. I knew that Dad was in pain on Saturday night, and I wanted to go check in on him first thing in the morning on Sunday. So rode over there and checked on him. I believe he was still in bed at that time, and just asked him how he was doing, asked if he wanted me to make him any coffee, and he said yes, that he was in some pain, and that he was going to lay down just for a little bit longer, and then he'd get up and go try to sit in his recliner in the living room. And after a while, he finally got up and came into the living room, and you could just tell he was in pain. And if you're new to the channel, he has prostate cancer, and we've been to the emergency room. When was it? Sometime last month. We went towards the end of the month. It's only been a couple of weeks or so, and for the same thing, he was having just excruciating pain, and he does have medication for it. Some of it works, some of it does not work. Some of it's very strong, and it still does not work. So Dad was sitting on the chair, and I just told him, I said, if you're in that much pain here at the house with the medicine you have, I said, I'll just take you to the emergency room, and we can have somebody that knows what they're doing take care of you and try to ease up that pain for you. And he sat there for a little while, and you could just tell he was in pain. I said, are you sure you don't want us to take you to the emergency room? And he finally said, yes, let's go. So helped him get dressed and all that, got everything ready. This is not our first rodeo this time, so a little bit more prepared on make sure that he had some extra clothes, stuff like that. Make sure I had a hoodie, because you don't know if you're going to spend the night or not, and emergency rooms are always cold, and hospitals are always freezing. So got everything going, took him up there. We arrived at the emergency room at about 8 a.m. on Sunday, and some reason the waiting room was empty, which is a great thing for us. But it still took a minute to get him back there. Just because the waiting room is empty at that point doesn't mean the emergency room's not full. And that place is just always rock and roll, and there's always people in there in the actual emergency area. So it probably took about 30 minutes or so, and they took him back. And this time he wasn't in an actual room by itself with a door that can close and everything. They have little partitions down the hallway with little rooms with that they put beds in, that, like I said, it just has a little curtain that you can roll across, which there's not much privacy. You could hear every single thing. There's people on both sides. You could hear people farting, burping, snoring, all that good stuff. You heard everything in between is what we heard. Any kind of a diagnosis, any of the issues that person's having, you can hear everything. There's just no privacy. You can hear everything the nurses are saying. They're literally 10 feet away from where the bed is on the other side of the hallway, putting in information and all that. And we were there, like I said, they got him back there probably about a little bit before 9 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, we arrived at 8. They got in there. He got his bed somewhere around 9 o'clock. And it was basically the waiting game, which is typical. You got to wait to see a doctor that comes in. Then they got to put in the prescriptions, all that good stuff. And in the meantime, Dad's in excruciating pain. That's why we're there. And it sucks seeing him that way. Like I said, nobody wants to see family hurting like that. I don't like to see anybody hurting, whether they're family or not. But when it's your family, it's a totally different ball game. And he was hurting, and there's only so many people you're allowed back there, so we were having to rotate between myself, Mom, and Matt. And it was just an ordeal. And like I said, I don't know how long this video is going to get, but it gets wild here in a second. I promise you, it gets absolutely crazy. But we were there, and it probably took a couple of hours before he finally got his first medicine. I'm off on the times because so much stuff happened. I'd say probably 11 o'clock-ish is when he got his medicine. I could be wrong. But he finally got his medicine. I don't even know what it is, or so many medicines they've been giving him. Whatever it was seemed to kick in. He goes from excruciating pain and wincing, and you can just tell in his face that he's hurting, to where his eyes just look like he's super drowsy and ready to go to sleep. And he's off and on out of being awake and all that good stuff, being in pain and all that. So we waited there, and like I said, it was around 1 o'clock, I believe, the doctor came in and was checking in on him and said that they were going to try to admit him to a room. We weren't sure at this point if it was going to be in Kingsville at the hospital, which is where we were at, or if they were going to have to take him to Corpus like they did last time. And if you hear a pig noise in the back, it's Daisy snorting, trying to do something. I don't know what. But so at that point, we were like, all right, at least we have a game plan. We do know we're going to be spending the night, whether it's here in Kingsville or if we're going to take the ambulance, follow the ambulance up there like we did last time to Corpus. At that point, I think Matt and Mom stayed in the back, and I told them that I will spend the night with them like I did last time. I'll stay the night, and Matt can do the driving as far as taking Mom back and forth to the hospital and back home, so Mom can rest at night comfortably. So I drove home, took a quick shower, gassed up the vehicle, all that, and like I said, I wasn't sure if we were going to stay in Kingsville or not. And when I got home, Mom texted me and said we are staying in Kingsville. So that was a big relief, not only for just for the whole family as a relief, so Dad didn't have to be in pain to get loaded in an ambulance and all that. But so we knew we were going to stay in Kingsville, and they just said they didn't know how long it was going to be. We were still in that same little room with the curtains. You, like I said, hear everything. It's very noisy. It's the emergency room. Everything's going on. People are in pain. People are asking for nurses. People aren't doing what they're told in there. And it was about, I don't know the exact time. It was later that afternoon. It was Mom, myself, and Dad in the room, the area where Dad was sitting or laying, and we kept hearing, "Get back to your room, go to your room." I'm not going to say the person's name because he ended up being a minor. At the time, when we saw this person, Dad, Mom, and myself, we all thought he was 18, 19 years old. He had a little bit of a mustache, tattoos, and they kept saying, "So-and-so, you need to go back to your room, you need to go lay down," because he was getting up and getting out of his room. And it was just weird, like you keep hearing the nurses saying it over and over, and this was at least half a dozen times that we heard them specifically tell him to get back in his room. And his room was directly across the hallway from where Dad was at, and so we could hear everything, we could see everything. And the minor, like I said, we didn't know how old he was at the time. There were some recliners right outside of where Dad's area was, like in the hallway, so another patient could come in if they had an emergency. So there's just a little curtain blocking you, and then a little chair next to it. Well, Mom was sitting in the recliner outside of where Dad was, trying to relax. Well, the minor came and sat down across from her, which is probably 10 feet away, and he was refusing to go back to his room, and was just looking around. He just looked like he was up to no good. Matt had said that he saw the guy before, and kind of thought the same thing, like he just looked like he was up to no good. And I knew he was the patient because he had his wristband on, and they kept saying, "You need to go back to your room, you need to go back to your room." Well, at the time, Mom kept going from the recliner into the little area where we were, checking in on Dad, and I didn't have a clue. Like I said, this whole thing happened so fast, there was so much going on. Mom kept going back and forth, and like I said, I didn't know where she was at the moment. I knew I was in with Dad, and Dad was somewhat awake at the time, I guess. And next thing I know, I hear what sounds like a fist fight, and like, you know what it sounds like when somebody's just getting waylaid on. You can just hear that sound, and I hear the nurses screaming, like loud scream, and I knew something was wrong. My first instinct was the nurses are getting beat up by somebody, and I happened to look out. There's a little, about a 2-foot gap where the curtains weren't pulled up, and I see one of the male nurses, which thank God there was a male nurse there at the time, just happened to walk the hallway or something, holding on to somebody, fighting with him. And my first instinct was, Mom is right there in the hallway, I got to get out there and help stop this threat. And like I said, we didn't know how old the dude was at the time. I just yelled, "I'll help you," and I ran over there and helped grab the guy, ended up taking him to the ground and was holding him down, and this kid stunk like real bad. At the time, like I said, I thought he was 18, 19 years old, and we had him pinned down, and he was just struggling, trying to fight and get up. Well, like I said, you hear everything in the emergency room. Everybody's in a small area. Well, come to find out, this kid had been in the emergency room before and had the same issue where he kept getting out of his room. And at the time, I just know that there was an older lady that was sitting in the hallway between where Dad's station was, where he was stationed, and where the nurse's station was. There was an old lady. I don't know how old she was. I would say probably 70-ish, maybe. She was leaned back like this, just knocked out cold. My heart broke. I felt so bad for this lady. That kid assaulted her. The nurse that was pinning him down said he just punched that lady in the face 9 times, knocked her out. I was holding the kid down by his legs, trying to hold him down, and we were saying, call the cops, call the cops. Of course, everybody's frantic trying to do stuff. And I looked back, and that lady, it's just like her eyes were just rolled back in her head, like she just got the crap beat out of her. And I didn't know to what extent at that time. All I know is that we were trying to keep this person down so he couldn't assault anybody else. And my thought process was that could have been Mom, because she was sitting right there in the hallway. And at the time, I didn't know until I looked up, and I could see right to Dad and Mom, in where Dad's room was, where I walked out of the curtains. I could see Mom and Dad like looking at me, and I was just shaking my head like this mother beeper. Like I was mad, and I, like I said, I didn't know how old he was. I said, "You're lucky that was not my mom. I would be smashing your face into the floor right now." And they were calling security, and finally the security guard showed up. He pinned down the other arm of the guy, and this guy had it like where his IV was or something, or had his blood work done, something, whatever it was. He had a bloody cotton swab on there, so I'm thinking it was blood work. And that was the arm I was holding down, so I was trying not to grab where the blood was because I didn't want to get that stuff on me. And the nurse, the male nurse, and myself were saying, we need to handcuff this guy, like, to the security guard. Do you have handcuffs? He said he does, but he can't do nothing about it right now because of protocol. Nothing against the security guard. He did his job. He just said he can't do nothing without talking to his boss first. And one of the nurses ended up grabbing the phone out of the security guard's pocket because we were restraining the guy, and called the guy's boss. And after a little bit of going back and forth, the boss said, yes, you can handcuff him. So security handcuffed him, and we the three of us picked the guy up and put him inside like a normal ER bed. And the nurses had grabbed some straps. They were getting ready to strap him down, but he was already handcuffed behind his back. And like I said, everything was happening so fast. And at that point, I knew that it ended up being that kid's grandmother that he beat up. Like I said, he hit her in the face. I think the nurse said 9 times in the face, and like I said, knocked her out and all that. And at that point, it kind of registered in my hand, okay, this was not a random attack. And I calmed down just a little bit. Like I said, I was amped up because I thought it was just a random, he was punching whoever he could see in the hallway. And at that time, like I said, I knew Mom was out of the picture at that time. Like, see, she was all right and not there. So like I said, we picked him up, put him in the chair or the bed, and started rolling him to another room that was available until the cops could show up, Kingsville Police Department. And I know that the security guard was walking behind the bed with the male nurse. Nobody was holding him down, which I thought was strange because he was just handcuffed, but the kid was fighting and stuff a lot. So my thought process was, this guy's going to get up and start kicking and try to run. So I was holding him down, and we walked past the nurse's station. One of the nurses was pulling the bed, and I was walking on the side, pinning him down. And we walked across the nurse's station to where the ambulance comes in the front, the double doors. And right when we walked by there, KPD had walked in, and we rolled him into one of the emergency rooms and then walked out. And I just told the cops, I said I was pinning him down because I didn't want him to jump up and do anything. And at that point, they did their thing. They showed up, and I don't know what ended up happening to the guy, but I went back to Mom and Dad, just said, are y'all good? And they said yes. And then I walked outside because Matt was in his car waiting, and I needed to clear my head. Like I said, it was all amped up. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I walked outside and told Matt, I said, you won't believe what just happened. And I told him the whole story. And I got a phone call from Mom saying that the security wanted me back in there, that they needed to take a statement from me, what I saw and all that. So I got back in there. They locked down the whole emergency room because they didn't want anybody coming and going in, and I didn't know that at the time that they had locked it down. And as far as getting in, I was able to get out, but I walked out into the main lobby area of the emergency room, and it was packed. People were all freaked out because their family members are in there, and you can only have so many people in there. And somebody had said, "What's going on?" I said, "There was some guy. He kept getting out of his room, and he beat the hell out of his grandma and punched her in the face or whatever, in the head about 9 times." And I said we had to tackle the guy and hold him down until the cops showed up, and that everything else is good except for this lady, this poor lady. And anyways, I got back in, talked to the security guard. He asked for my name, and as soon as I said my name, he kind of smiled at me. He says, "I know who you are." And when I get that reaction, I'd say, "What, YouTube? Do you watch my YouTube?" He said, "Yes." And then he said, "I also, that my granny, Dad's mom, and his grandma were really good friends and went to church together and stuff." So it's a small world. I shook his hand, thanked him for showing up and obviously handcuffed and helping do the situation. But I was mad that happened. You're in a hospital. I later found out too, because you can hear everything in there. This is not the first time he's been there. He's been there, I think this was his second or third time being there, and he's known for coming out of his room. I was mad that there was not security outside his room making sure that he would stay in there, which I don't know the protocol for the hospital, but if you know that you have a patient that's known for getting out of his room like that, why would you not have some security there, right there, making sure that he doesn't get out? That old lady, the grandmother, this should not have happened to her. I later found out that her jaw was broken, and they had her in the intensive care unit, I believe, or something, or in trauma unit or something like that, what they were saying. I don't know if she had a concussion or anything else. I do know that her jaw was broken from what I heard, and that I also heard that he'd beat up his mom the night before. So I was a little upset with the hospital for that, because my thought process too was, first thing, make sure mom was not the one that got hit, and two, if we didn't stop this kid from fighting and going, he could have easily have thrown this nurse into the curtains and knocked over a bed or something like where my dad was, and that'd been the last thing that we needed. But long story short, cops took the kid off. The grandmother was being taken care of, and I don't know what happened to her since then. If somehow she watches this video, I hope that you're okay. I apologize that it happened. I walked by, and I was frustrated, and my eyes were all watery because I was teary-eyed when I saw her, because she was effed up. And she kind of just looked over at me, and I just said, "I'm so sorry that happened to you." And I don't think she even realized what was going on, because like I said, she was probably concussed. But all that happened, and ended up being over with, and everything kind of calmed down at that point. Later in the day, told you it's gonna probably be a long story, but I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes, everything. But later on, excuse me, we were still trying to control Dad, back to Dad. We were trying to control his pain, and we were still waiting in the emergency room. Like I said, it was from 8 o'clock in the morning. This was like, I don't even know what time it was, maybe 5 o'clock or so in the afternoon. And Mom, we kept telling her, "Why don't you just go home? You don't need to be here. We don't know how long we're going to be in here. We're still waiting for a room to open. You never know how long it's going to take." And so she finally agreed. There's no reason for all of us to be up there. Like I said, luckily for me, and because of you guys, I can take time off like that to help out in situations, stay the night, skip a few days from posting, and then try to make up for it later. So Matt took her back, which thankfully we had an extra vehicle, so he took Mom back home, and we just waited around, and Dad was asking the nurses if we could pull in one of the recliners in there so I can lay down, because they just have those hard little single chairs in there that are not comfortable. But they said they couldn't do it because they use those for extra patients if it gets super busy. And they switched to the night shift nurses. This was after 7 o'clock now, and Dad had asked the same thing with the night nurse if they could do that, and she said unfortunately they can't move chairs around. And it was about 8:30 at night. The nurse came back in and says, "I got some good news. There's not a room available in the hospital section, but there is a room back here that became available in the ER. So there's a recliner in there, and we'll get you guys set up in there." And of course we thanked her. She was such a sweetheart, that lady. And we got back there in that room about 9 o'clock at night, and which was way better than being out in that hallway. And I promise you, it wasn't. By the time we got everything set up, it didn't have a bathroom in it. That was the only bad part. So I had to keep going to the emergency bathroom. And watch out, Daisy, don't knock it over. But by the time we got everything set up, I went to the bathroom. They already had that room filled up again with another patient. That's just how busy it was down there. And she basically just said she can't guarantee we can get a room, but to go ahead and make ourselves comfortable. And at that point, we knew we were going to spend the night in there. So spent the night there. Next morning, got up. Shout out to my Uncle Vern. He showed up to visit his brother, Dad's brother. And Mom had an appointment with a neurologist at 1:45. So at 11 o'clock, Matt, Mom, and I went to go eat before Mom's appointment while Dad visited with his brother. And came back, and they said that they had a room available, or come available, that it'd be sometime that day that we'd be able to get a room. And so it made us feel a little bit better, where we were out of the emergency wing, and then you go to the normal hospital, and where they come around on, they have their schedule they got to follow to check in on you and stuff. And the food's better up there as well. The emergency room is kind of bland, and I understand that. But they gave Dad a stronger fentanyl patch, a stronger dose of it. And like I said, that poor guy, he's had every kind of medicine you can think of. And he's a trooper. It hurts him, and then there's times where the medicine kicks in and he's able to maintain it. Not zero pain, but it's manageable. And at that point, we drove to Corpus. Mom and I did. I took her to a neurologist appointment while Matt stayed with Dad. And we were just texting back and forth, updating. And took Mom to her neurologist appointment. As y'all knew, she had an incident back in March where we found her. We think it might have been some kind of seizure in the middle of the night. Dad found her. What we thought she looked like she was gone. It was that bad. And she came out of it after a while, which was a terrifying situation in itself. But we went to the neurologist to figure out what was wrong with her, what they could figure out. And I think that appointment went absolutely great. The trip up there was good. The trip back was good. And the doctor there was very nice. So was the nurse before. They asked her a lot of questions, a lot of things to see how her memory was. They did physical tests on her. And I was actually shocked. They asked her 30 questions, just random things, and she got 28 out of 30 right. She missed 2 questions out of it. And I told the doctor, I said, in her defense, I didn't know the answer to one of them. One of them, she didn't know what floor we were on, because she didn't have to worry about it. That's why she has me there at the time, or Matt or Dad. We take care of that kind of stuff. She just follows us, and we take her wherever. So we were on the 5th floor. She missed that one. She didn't know what floor we were on, and then she didn't know the name of the hospital next door, and I didn't know the name of the hospital either. So she pretty much aced that test. The doctor asked more things, and basically said that she's good. She has a little bit of a memory issue, not remembering certain little things here and there. Some things are important that she forgets, but it was nothing that he was worried about. So he did up a little bit of her medicine, and we have a follow-up in 2 months with that. So that's great news for her. That helped ease a lot of the stress with Dad and the whole family about that situation with Mom. And so we'll be following up with that in September. And then we were headed back to Kingsville. By that time, I believe they just got the room available and were in there when Mom and I showed up. And that was a little bit more comfortable. It had a bathroom in it. And I stayed the night again with Dad. Matt drove Mom back. They probably left about 5 o'clock that afternoon. And we spent the night. The first night, I got about 2 hours of sleep. I just couldn't sleep. I'm sitting there trying to make sure the Dad's okay throughout the night. It's just one of those things you can't sleep. You just have to make sure they're good. And last night I slept good. I think I fell asleep like 8 o'clock. I was laying in the recliner, and I fell asleep before Dad did. But you always wake up throughout the night when the nurses are coming in. They come in all the time, checking his blood, vitals. They were taking out the trash, all that stuff, giving him meds. So it was probably 5 or 6 times throughout the night I think they came in. And Dad, he got some sleep, but he was still hurting a little bit this morning, so they gave him more medicine. And we didn't know, but they had already put in his discharge papers this morning, and otherwise we wouldn't have had Matt and Mom show up. They showed up this morning, got us some breakfast, and I guess he got discharged, but it wasn't the way we wanted it to. We were hoping that he would have some better medicine. Basically, he got sent home with the same medicine that he had before, I think, is what the end statement was. So we're just hoping and praying that the medicine that he's taking, that it'll just help ease his pain as much as possible. We do go back tomorrow for radiation for his 4th treatment. They have 10 of them set up. We had to miss 2 days because we were in the ER. So we go back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we'll probably go back most of next week. So continue y'all's prayers. It's been a very stressful week for the family, but we are getting through it. And just if it's not one thing, it's another. It's always something. And in the meantime, I got my truck still at the dealership, and that's a whole nother ball game. I'm not even going to go down that road right now because that's nothing good with that right now. So anyways, sorry for the long story, but overall we're back home, and we'll continue the treatments in Corpus every day, and I'll try to work on the house in between, try to follow up with you guys on the side channel, STR Talks, maybe on the trips and stuff back and forth from Corpus, and just do what we can during this time. And hopefully that radiation will help pinpoint exactly the spot that they need to, and it'll help relieve the pain on Dad, and then he won't have to have as much medicine. That's the goal we're shooting for. So very much appreciate all the prayers and stuff. There's been a lot of them, a lot of emails, a lot of messages, and people sending stuff in the mail to Dad and Mom, and all the responses on the post that I posted on the community tab. So appreciate all you guys. Want to let you know I appreciate you, not only for the prayers, but for the whole YouTube stuff watching, because it gives us time to be able to do this. Very lucky to live down here next to him to help him out, and not much Jason can do right now, but he's been following along a text message. I keep him updated. As y'all know, last time him and Danielle drove 12 hours down here to come see Dad in the hospital the first time. This time I told him, I said, obviously you don't need to drive down here. It's basically the same situation we were in, and was keeping him updated. If it was anything that if it warranted him coming down here, he would do it in a heartbeat. But just this time they stayed up there, and he's got a whole lot of stuff going on, which you guys are going to find out. If I can get this video out today, you'll probably find out on his channel tonight. I think he said he had his premiere at 6 o'clock. You'll find out what it is. It's a big change for him and Danielle, and I'm hoping everything goes good for that, and hoping that we can continue doing this build stuff, and hope that Dad makes a good recovery with all this and is able to not be in pain. So anyways, that's all I got. I told you I was going to keep it under 30 minutes. Stay tuned for more videos. Those that don't like talking videos, I don't know what to tell you. I don't try to just do Debbie Downer videos. This is my life. I post not daily vlogs or whatever, but I always post what's going on in my life, whether it's the good, the bad, or the ugly. This was just one of those weekends that was just a crazy weekend, and on top of that, like I said, it was very crazy that what happened with that minor in the emergency room, and how fast everything happened and how it was allowed to happen. I still think security, I'm not blaming security, I'm just blaming the hospital for not having somebody there to make sure that gentleman was staying in his room, because that could have been a lot worse. There's a lot of weapons that could be used in that emergency room to hurt somebody, and when you have a poor innocent person like my mother sitting there with her husband in the emergency room, she shouldn't have to worry about somebody going out there and trying to assault somebody. So luckily they got that person. I hope his ass is in jail, and I hope that they throw the book at him, because even though he's a minor, they're probably not going to do nothing. So anyways, I'm done talking. Up and up and up is how we're going to do it. Try to stay positive. It's been hard, but we're going to stay positive. So under 30 minutes, I promised. 29 minutes and 11 seconds right now. Hope you guys have a great day. No intro to this video and no outro. So appreciate y'all for watching, and hope y'all have a great day, and we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Bye, guys.